Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be going ahead and continuing on with our 2019 Plus Ram third brake light with camera, LED third brake light with camera. I will go ahead and link all the parts used in this video in the description below, and we're just going to do a brief overview of the harness. The harness, as you see here, I actually built this harness. The one that actually connects to the camera here, this pigtail, this is actually from the tailgate. So this is the tailgate, I think they call it the tailgate jumper harness for the rear tailgate camera. But we're using it, and we kind of modified it just a little bit. We took out the lock driver portion of it. So that way it's just one solid cable. Essentially all we did was we just cut the end off of it. We just blunt cut it and taped it back on this section with our cloth tape. So this is one part that you're going to need. This is would be listed on your schematic as an I-551 connector, inline. I think it's an inline chassis connector, but it's part number P68189124AC. So you'll need that. You can pick this up off of Amazon for, I think, right around $50 or so, I think is what I paid. It might have been like $39. They're fairly pricey. You'll need your third brake light. This one is part number 68163937AJ. So that's the one you need, and it should come right with the camera as well. Easy way that you can test these things is if you just take a 9-volt battery with you and some test leads, you can easily just hook it up to the light, and you can make sure at least the light works. You won't be able to make sure that the camera works, but hopefully you're buying it from somebody reputable. We got this one off of eBay, so I would say just make sure that you check it. It's got some little flaws in it, like this little piece here for the harness here is broke off. Not a big deal for me, at least. All right, so next on the list is the wire. Per the schematic, each wire is either 0.5 or 0.35, or 0.50 and 0.35. The only 20 so it's basically be 20 gauge or 22 gauge wire. The only 22 gauge wire that you're going to have to pin out is going to be the LIN bus CBC3, which is going to go to the radio to tell it that the camera is there. So that one is actually pinned out for orange, and we'll get to that part of the wiring harness in a minute. One of the things I do want to mention here is in regards to your wire, you don't want to go cheap on the wire because it's going to show up in your video quality. So definitely get a good brand of wire. Whether it's from your local electrical supply store or whatnot. It doesn't matter the color that you use. Whatever you guys prefer to do is what I would go with. And you just need to, for like the camera wire, I went with this is basically like control wire. It's stranded wire, so it's not solid core. It has basically 3 wires in it. It is shielded. This is a shielded wire. There's so many signals going throughout the truck. Just with the radio and all the other communications going on, I didn't want any interference or noise to give me like a worse picture, if any at all. So I opted to go with, basically it's a 22 2, so it's 22 gauge 2-strand twisted pair, and basically this just has it's got a black and a red pair that's twisted with a shield, and then the shield also has a drain line, which is going to be your shielded wire. And all that's going to do is just going to take all of your noise or interference that you get, it's going to bring it into the shield part, and then it's going to send it to a ground path so it doesn't interfere with your twisted pair camera lines. So one's a red, one's a black, and then one is just a bare wire. So I'll go ahead and strip this for you guys so you can see kind of what it looks like. All right, you have a little bit of like this nylon material in it as well. And then here's your bare wire right here. So that'll go to, I think we pinned the shield wire to pin 12. Yep, I370 12. And then you just fold back the shield. Here's your black and your red. This stuff is from a company called Commodity Cables. You should be fine with 22 gauge wire to run your camera return and camera signal. You should have no issues with that. And then just make sure you get a good ground and then a good power. I think we ran 20 gauge for the power, 20 gauge for the ground, and then I also had the LIN bus, which we'll go to LIN bus CBC3 at the I440, and that is going to be a 22 gauge orange wire. So don't skip on the wire. Twisted pair is probably pretty good for this. I think if you run it parallel, you could have some issues. I don't know. I ran a parallel one on our test cable, and I feel like the picture is definitely better with the twisted pair shielded wire. So just food for thought. And at the end of the day, you know, you can get a multi-conductor wire that's like this, that's unshielded. It's still twisted pair. You can get multi-conductor wire in a loom like this that has 4 conductors. So that'd be like your 24, so it'd be 20 gauge 4 conductor. You can go 18 gauge if you want to, but I'm going to go with what the factory says they're using, which is a 20 gauge and a 22 from what it looked like on the schematic. So just a little piece on the wiring, and this stuff is pretty cheap. I think I paid 22 cents a foot for this, and I got 50 feet of it, so it was like maybe around $9 or $10. It really wasn't that bad. So it plugs in just like so. Okay. All right. So the I551 connector is a female connector, so you will need to get the male plug and then pin out all of the connectors inside of it. There are 2 that you will see in here that are absent. Those are the 2 that are for the lock cylinder on the tailgate, so you won't be using those. The way that you read this connector is A is in the upper right, pin A is in the upper right hand corner, and then it moves across in the first row, A through D, and then continues on to the bottom, so on and so forth. All right, the next item that we ordered was this cloth tape. So this is what you'll find in a lot of automotive wiring harnesses. They're wrapped up with this. So just simple cloth tape. We got them in a package of 4. As you can see here, they weren't that much. We ordered them right off of Amazon. Then we went to this braided, so if you look on Amazon, it's actually made by Alex Tech. This is PET braided split sleeve. If you get just the braided sleeve, it's not going to be split, so when you go to put it around the wire, you're going to actually have to feed the wire through 18 feet of this stuff. The next items that you're going to need to purchase, we purchased a couple things from a few different companies. Part of it is because one company had one pin and another company had another, or one company had one connector but not the other one. So we ended up going through 3 different companies. We went through YESC here for all of your what's called an Aptiv GT150 sealed connector, which is essentially this one here. This is an Aptiv or a Delphi GT150 8-way sealed connector. Part number for that one is 153 26840. Then to go along with that, what blocks off the backside are these 8-way TPA GT150 connectors. These are part number 15418415, and all these do is they connect to the back here. They just clip on after you've inserted the wires, and they just hold everything in place. So you'll want those. Next company we went with was Corsa Technic. Actually, let me back up. Waytech, if you order less than $35 worth of product from them, they do have I think it's like an extra $10 processing fee. So just order over $35. Next company we went with is Corsa Technic. These guys have been really awesome as far as getting us all of the pins and terminals and connectors that we've ever needed throughout any of our other electrical stuff. So normally they have everything. They're super helpful. I highly recommend them. Look them up. But they were able to get us a lot of the pins for the GT150 connectors. So we have the male pins here, which is pin number or part number 15326268. You'll also need pin number 71164100-02. And then also these little seals for the wires once you pat. So you'll put these seals on first, then you'll pin the connector, and then these slide into the back of the connector once you've got everything in place. But these are part number 15366021. And last but not least, we've got our Yazaki hybrid connectors, unsealed female terminals, part number 7116-4110-02, and these are the ones that are required for I-440. Before I forget, this stuff that we ordered off of Amazon, it's Alex Tech split sleeving. Diameter is 1/4 inch and it's 25 feet long. All right, so that was a brief overview of all the parts that you're going to need to complete this job if you're going to build the harness yourself. Otherwise, you can go ahead and skip forward on further into the video, and I'll actually show you how to run the harness in case you buy it from somebody else. This is very similar to a lot of the other harnesses you can buy out on the market. But you're basically going to pin 3 connectors, and one of them is going to start at I-370. I-370 is located up at the front part of the dash. On the driver's side, it's a green terminal. It is pinned on the harness side going to the radio. It is already pinned with all the male pins. You want to look into your terminals 12, 13, and 14, which are your 3 camera signals, and it should be video shield 2, video common 2, and video signal 2. The part number for that connector is 7283-6453-60. That is for the female plug, which will also get you your female terminals that you're going to need to pin out in pins 12, 13, and 14. The part number for the female terminals is 7116-4100-02. If you decide to go, instead of with 22 and 20 gauge wire, and you go with 18 or 16 gauge, the part number for that terminal in 18 to 16 gauge is 7116-4101-02, just for your information. The next terminal that you're going to need to get, we've already talked about it, are these Aptiv GT150 Series connectors. That is going to go to your I-551 connector, which connects directly to the camera harness pigtail. Then you have your Aptiv GT150 one-way cable seals, your TPAs. As I stated earlier, you have your Yazaki YESC hybrid connector. That is part number 7282-6459-40, and it is part of the Headliner IP harness. These are already pinned out for male pins, so you need the female pins to connect to that. The hybrid connector for the Yazaki has 1.5 millimeter and 2.8 only pins in it. The 2.8 pins should be the outer 4 pins and the rest of them 1.5. In the I440 connector, it is on the driver's side C-pillar by the seat belt, so you'll have to take the panels off. I actually had to remove, I found it easier to remove the seat, so we'll go ahead and show you that. And then you're going to go ahead and pin pins 5 and 6. They are, in my truck, they are not populated already on the female portion of the connector. So pin 5 is going to be the LIN bus CBC3. It is a 22 gauge orange with blue stripe wire. Pin 6 on that terminal, or on pin 6 of that connector, is the run relay control circuit. It will be a 20 gauge wire and it's pink with a yellow stripe. The part number for the Yazaki 2.8 pins that you will need, or terminals, is 7116-4110-02. All right, let's move on to the I551 connector really quick. We'll talk about the pins and how they're located within the connector. So you can kind of tell from my drawing here, you have I551. So this is the female side, or the one that actually comes from the camera. As I stated, the pins go from right to left. So this is pin number 1 is A. This is your camera signal. It's your 22 gauge wire. Then you go over, all these are 22 gauge for the most part that come out of the camera. So you'll go A through D, and then it starts back over on the right side bottom corner. These are the 2 pins, pin, I believe, G and H. They are for the tailgate lock driver. One is for the lock driver and the other one for the unlock driver. Now the one that we pinned it out as such, if you can see here. So we have the reverse. So you'll see up here, pin A is now reversed because you're turning it to connect it, so it'll be opposite. Pin A in the harness we built is going to be the camera signal wire. It will be dark blue or blue, and it will go to video signal 2 at the I370 pin 14. Pin B will be your camera return. It will be yellow. It will go to the camera common 2 or video common 2 in the I370 at pin 13. Your ground will be routed with a eyelet on the end of it, and it will get grounded underneath on the driver's side, underneath the or behind the kick panel. Next is D. Pin D will be your LIN bus CBC3. It will be an orange wire. Then we go to E. It is your camera shield or video shield. It is our green wire coming out of our harness that we built. It'll go to I370 and it'll get located at pin 12. Next, you have your run relay. It will be a red wire. It will go to I440 and it will get pinned into pin 6. And then the next 2 are your tailgate unlock and lock drivers. Let's get into the truck and we'll take a look at what we need to do to get this thing prepped for this harness. All right guys, so as you can see, we've got all the panels out of the truck for the most part. The only panels you really have to remove are the left side dash, so you can get to the I370. So I370 is here. It'll be stuck kind of into this part of the dash right here. You just kind of be sitting in there like that in this hole. We got it removed though for ease of access. One thing you want to look at here is you want to make sure that you're on the back of these connectors, there's numbers. Okay, so you've got 12, 13, 14. You want to make sure these are your wires that are pinned from your radio. So these have to be here in order for you to do this harness. All right, if they're not there, you will have to pin them yourself and run the wires from here over to your radio connector, or go through the passenger side, which is another method that you can do, just not with this harness. All right, so you've got your bare shielded wire here, and then I think 13 was a camera signal or return, and then another one was a signal. So it's these 3 right here. So gray with yellow stripe, gray with blue stripe, and then you've got your shielded wire here. Okay, so now on the other side of this one, you've got, I don't know if I can get it positioned. All right, you've got pins 12 right here, 13 and 14. Okay, so those are going to correspond. I've got them all written down, and I'll show you which ones go in what place here shortly. All right, so we got this panel off. Then you've got the kick panel. This will be your ground right back here. You'll take that one loose and you'll ground your ground wire on the harness. All right, then we'll continue. We'll run the cabling up in here into this recess, and then you're just going to run it straight through here, come around the other side, and then we didn't pop this one off yet. So these just kind of pull off. All right, so there you go. Little sticker in there. All right, so now you'll run it here. All right, all up along this, pull this back, run it up under here, and then you'll go to your I-440. All right, this looks like someone's been in here a little bit maybe. Anyways, all right, so I-440 will be here. Okay, it'll be stuck just like that on the wall or on the C-pillar. All right, and as you can see, there's 2 blank spots in this harness. Well, there's really 4. So you've got one here and one up here. Now, if you remember, we said we're gonna do pink with yellow wire should be your run control. That's in position. This one's marked on the back as well. It's in position 5. Okay, starts with 1 and then goes to 10 here. So 1 across the top to the left, 5 across the bottom to the left. Okay, so run control here, and then orange is your LIN bus CBC 3. You're going to pin to that one. Okay, so orange and red. Red's going to go to pink, orange is going to go to LIN bus. All right, and then you'll just correspond those. Then we had to remove the seat. Okay, we remove the seat so that you can actually gain access to get the paneling out. So you'll get this one out and the sill plate. All right, and then you'll pull this headliner down, so you need to take out this little hook here. All right, that's just a it's a T20 Torx to take that one out, and to take the seat belt out here, it's a T50. So you'll need a T50, an 18mm socket to take the seat bolts out. This is your T50 for your seat belt itself. And I think I used a 13 for the nuts on the cargo storage. Anyways, so once you get this down, you can pull this down a little bit. Just be careful not to pull it too far, but you're going to pull it all the way back up to the front of the door. All right, and then you can kind of see back there, we got the third brake light out, and we're just going to run our harness from here. We haven't cut any of the length of wires because I'm trying to determine what the length needs to be in order to pin it to here. So once we get that determined, we'll cut the wire, and I'll give you guys all the dimensions for the wires so you can make this harness yourself. All right, for the wire lengths, you're going to want to make your LIN bus and your run wire or your run relay circuit wire, which is going to power your camera. These are going to be 30, you can make them about 36 inches. That'll give you plenty from the harness. Once you install it at I-551 for the camera, that'll give you plenty of slack to pin out to I-440. The ground wire we measured to be 13 foot 6 inches roughly. So if you want to do a little bit of extra on that, it probably wouldn't hurt, just so you have a little bit extra. You just have to tie it back or zip tie it or tape it. And then as for the main cable, I would recommend that you do probably a twisted pair. So this is just this is twisted pair 22 gauge shielded wire. We got this from the local electrical supply. It was about 22 cents a foot, and we got 50 feet of it, so we could make extra harnesses if we needed to. But this is 15 foot 2 inches, so you could go like 15, 16 foot, or even like 15.6 if you wanted a fairly even number. And then this is, I want to say this is like fire alarm control wire or something, is what the guy told me, but I'll put the links in the description below. A lot of this wire you can get all over the internet, so, but it was super cheap, and we'll show you why you're going to want probably shielded and twisted pair wire rather than just running lines parallel to each other. It has a lot to do with interference, noise on the lines, so you really want to separate your camera and return signals. I do believe that we had an issue with the first harness we built, so you notice that this one's different colors, but I believe we had an issue because it was cheap wire. It was just kind of something we were testing out to make sure that our theory on the schematic was correct and we could pin out to those pins. So now we've got the legit twisted pair shielded wire. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to unlock this lock here on I-440. All you're going to do is you're going to pry down on this tab here, and then you're just going to pull it out, and then it'll look like this. It'll release. All right, that's going to enable us to push these pins in. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to crimp our half barrel crimps or open barrel crimp terminals on here. All right, you see how they fold over like this? So the way that these work, this is your connector or terminal 7116-4110-02, and essentially they just come on this roll here. All you're going to do is take it and just break it off. All right, looks like this. So as you can see, it's an open barrel. Okay, and then you have these open barrel. These are by YESC. These are Amazon specials, so, but they're pretty good. You got these ones. Those go up to 22, 24 gauge. And then you also have these ones which have a much smaller range, 20 gauge to 32 gauge. But these aren't working as good as those other ones. So I would recommend using these. All right, I'll post a link for these in the description below as well. Anyways, so you're gonna take your wire, okay, and then all you're gonna do is, I just kind of twisted this one because it's hard to get in the barrel, so twist it up. Next, I just kind of pre-position this in the crimper. All right, and you're gonna go with the open barrel facing these little, they look like little wings. I don't know if you can see that or not, but really close on the left side, you see how it's kind of pointed? That's going to curve everything in onto the wire, and it's going to split the wire in half pretty much. All right, so next we're just going to put it on the wire, crimp it down. All right, so if you can see that, they fold it over kind of in half, and they're just going to crimp down on the wire. Then you can pull it and it shouldn't come loose. As you can see, we have our pins pinned in here. All right, run relay into 6, then bus into 5, and we went ahead and relocked, just kind of pushed it in. All right, now we're going to connect this back and tidy up all our wires. The next set of pins we're going to put in, or terminals, is for the i370. We're basically going to wire all this up, connect it, make sure everything functions the way that it does before we tidy everything up, and then we'll go ahead and zip tie everything together where we want it to be. These are pins 7116 4100-02. You're going to use 3 of these. All right, now we went ahead and pinned green, which is our cam shield or our video shield, to pin 12 in the i370. Again, this has one of those TPA locks, so you're going to want to push down on this bottom piece and pull it out. So green to pin 12, which would be your video shield of the i370. Yellow on our wiring harness is going to be the camera return or video return. That's going to pin 13. And then our blue is our camera or video signal. That's going to pin 14. We're going to go ahead and plug this in and get our ground wire hooked up, and then hook everything up and see if it works. There it is, boys. That's the cargo camera. It's on, it's working, everything is pinned out. So this harness for sure works. If you guys have the same setup, it's an 8.4 18 radio. So 2018 8.4 Uconnect without navigation, and I pinned it exactly how I showed you previously. So this for sure will work. It is now at the point where we need to seal up our third brake light. So what we're going to go ahead and do is take a 3M eraser wheel, and we are just going to eraser wheel this foam gasket off. We're going to go ahead and take our 3M auto glass urethane windshield adhesive. You can actually put this over more windshield adhesive. You can kind of see we've kind of cut it away, and it will seal up against that as it squishes down. So it's kind of the same concept as doing like one of your windshields. You know, you don't always get everything completely clean, and they end up just basically sealing over the surface of the old adhesive. So anyways, we're gonna chuck this up in the drill, get this stuff off, put the new 3M adhesive on this, and clean up the truck, and then stuff it in. All right, next we're just going to wipe down this part with some alcohol. Make sure that it's good and clean. All right. This side too. Now we'll move over to the truck side, do the same thing there. All right, we're just going to wipe across here, make sure there's nothing there. You kind of see our harness in there. It sits pretty good. I mean, this is the harness right here for the lighting, and this is our harness right here. So, and then here's the previous one. You can see the 3M adhesive did pretty good on sealing it. It definitely stuck to here compared to like what the dealership, you know, had done. All right, guys, we're basically just gonna put our blue nitrile gloves on. This stuff is pretty nasty, so you definitely don't want to get it on your hands. All right, another thing is you want to use something when you're using thicker products like this. Much easier to use something like this that has more pressure for the tube, which is, you know, like this caulk gun. It's just a higher rated caulk gun, so you can push heavier compounds. And this tube we've been working on since basically last year, I want to say, because we did a camper window with this. So this is some pretty good stuff. All right, we'll go ahead and start caulking this. Let's see. Alright guys, so you can see here, you got some that squished out the top just a little bit. It's not even noticeable though. So you should be good with that. As long as it squishes out a little bit and you can see around it, you'll be fine. You won't have any issues with it leaking for a long time, and you won't run into the issues that I ran into with leaking third brake lights. However, what I would say on this is to let it sit for roughly 24 hours before you get it wet, and that'll allow everything to cure and be watertight. Right, guys, that's going to do it for this install video of the cargo camera in the third brake light for a 2018 Ram 2500 or 4th gen Ram. Be sure to check out the description below, as we're going to link all the items we used and part numbers and everything in the description, so you guys can find them and build the same harness. If you guys have any questions, please drop them down in the comments below. We'd be glad to hear from you guys and to answer any questions that we can assist with. Please subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Every like definitely helps the channel, and make sure you hit that bell notification so when we upload new content, you guys get notified. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next upload.